One ordinary Tuesday, my son's friend knocked on our door with a backpack and a rehearsed smile. "Can I stay just for tonight?" he asked, those 10 words spoken with such practiced casualness. But later, as moonlight spilled across my guest room, I saw the truth written across his back. Ugly purple bruises no child should ever wear. They told a different story, of locked closets, of silent screams, of adults who looked away. I was just another suburban mom with dinner in the oven and bills piled on the counter. I wasn't prepared to face down monsters wearing respectable faces. But some choices aren't really choices at all. Because once you've seen what I saw on Noah's back, you can never unsee it. And you can never walk away. Just before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today, and if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed. Another Tuesday night in Pinewood meant meatloaf, which Ellis always complained about but cleaned his plate anyway. I was pulling it from the oven when I heard the doorbell ring. "I'll get it, Mom," Ellis called from the living room. At 10 years old, he'd recently decided answering the door made him the man of the house. I smiled, placing the steaming dish on the counter. Our little routine in our little house in our little town was predictable, but comforting. After David left 3 years ago, predictable felt like a blessing. The muffled conversation at the door went on longer than usual. Curious, I wiped my hands on a kitchen towel and made my way to the entryway. Ellis stood with the door open, whispering intensely with another boy about his age. "Ellis," I called, rounding the corner. Both boys jumped. The visitor was thin, blonde, and pale, with circles under his eyes that no child should have. He clutched a worn backpack to his chest like it contained everything precious in the world. "Mom, this is Noah, from school." Ellis spoke quickly, his eyes begging me for something I couldn't yet understand. "Noah Greaves." The boy, Noah, looked up at me with clear blue eyes. "Ma'am, I'm really sorry to bother you." His voice was soft, rehearsed. "I was wondering if I could maybe stay over. Just for tonight. My mom's not home again and your mom doesn't know where you are?" I interrupted, alarm bells ringing. Noah looked down. "She works nights sometimes. She won't notice." Ellis grabbed my hand. "Please, Mom? Noah's really cool. He helps me with math." I studied Noah more carefully. His clothes were clean but wrinkled, like they'd been pulled from the bottom of a drawer. His sneakers were worn at the edges. But it was the look in his eyes that got me, a practiced calm with something desperate underneath. "Noah, honey, I really should call your mom," I said gently. His shoulders tensed. "Please don't. She needs her rest. I don't want to bother her." A car door slammed down the street, and Noah actually flinched at the sound. My stomach tightened. "Just for tonight," I heard myself say. "But tomorrow, we talk about calling your mom, okay?" The relief that washed over both boys' faces made me wonder what I was getting myself into. Ellis pumped his fist in victory while Noah's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. I promise I won't be any trouble." "Claire," I corrected. "Call me Claire." I showed Noah to our guest room. Really just a small office with a pull-out couch. Ellis hovered nearby, clearly protective of his friend. "Dinner's almost ready. You like meatloaf, Noah?" I asked, trying to sound normal. "Yes, ma'am, I mean Claire. I like everything really." The way he said it made me think he'd had to like whatever was put in front of him. At the dinner table, I watched Noah carefully. He ate quickly but neatly, taking modest portions until I encouraged him to have seconds. His eyes stayed mostly on his plate. When Ellis accidentally dropped his fork with a clatter, Noah's hand jerked, though he covered it well. Ellis kept the conversation going, telling me about their science project on ecosystems. Noah contributed occasionally, showing flashes of intelligence and humor that made me see why Ellis liked him. But there was always that guardedness, that careful control. After dinner, I suggested the boys shower before bed. Ellis went first while Noah helped me clear the table, insisting actually despite my protests. "My mom says a guest should always help," he explained, efficiently stacking plates. "Your mom taught you well," I replied, watching his methodical movements. "Does she work nights often?" Noah's hands paused for just a second.
Sometimes.
Depends on the schedule. What does she do? I kept my tone casual. Different things. Mostly at the hospital now. He didn't elaborate. When both boys had showered, I said goodnight, reminding them not to stay up too late. Then I gathered their towels for the laundry, noticing a dark stain on what must have been Noah's t-shirt. I unfolded it, my breath catching.
Blood.
Not much, but unmistakable, on the back of the shirt. My heart raced as I walked back to the guest room. The door was ajar. I knocked softly before pushing it open just an inch.
Noah?
Did you find everything you? The words died in my throat. Noah stood with his back to the door, shirtless, rummaging through his backpack. His pale skin was a canvas of violence, deep purple bruises across his shoulder blades, yellowing marks around his ribs, what looked like belt marks striping his lower back. He turned quickly, but not before I saw everything. We stared at each other for a frozen moment before I found my voice. I just wanted to make sure you had enough blankets, I stammered, gripping the doorframe. Noah pulled on his sleep shirt with practice speed. I'm fine, thank you. His voice was suddenly wooden. His eyes shuttered. I nodded and backed away, closing the door gently. Then I hurried to the bathroom, my hand over my mouth, fighting the urge to be sick. Those marks weren't from falling off a bike or roughhousing. Someone had deliberately hurt this child, repeatedly, viciously. And he had hidden it with the skill of long practice. I spent the next hours in a haze of research, child abuse signs, mandated reporting laws, local CPS procedures. The screen blurred as tears filled my eyes. What was happening in that house? Who was hurting him? The mother he was so reluctant to bother? Around midnight, my bedroom door creaked open. Ellis stood there in his pajamas, looking smaller than his 10 years. Mom, he whispered. Are you still awake? I patted the bed beside me. What's wrong, sweetheart? He climbed up, hugging his knees to his chest. I should have told you before. Told me what? My pulse quickened. Ellis's eyes were wide in the dim light. About Noah. It's been happening for a while. The bruises and stuff. He swallowed hard. He never wanted me to tell. He made me promise. How long have you known? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Since gym class last month. He always changes in the bathroom stall, but once I saw when his shirt came up. Ellis's voice wavered. He said it was normal. That all parents do that sometimes. My heart broke at the words. Ellis, listen to me. That is not normal. No parent should ever hurt their child like that. I know, he whispered. That's why I told him to come here. I pulled my son close, wondering how my sweet, sheltered boy had been carrying this burden alone. You did the right thing. But as I held him, my mind was already racing ahead. What would I do in the morning? How could I protect Noah without sending him running back to whatever horror awaited him at home? One thing was certain, just one night wasn't going to be enough. Morning came too soon. I'd barely slept, my mind churning with what I'd seen on Noah's back. I made pancakes, Ellis's favorite, hoping the normalcy might ease the tension I knew was coming. The boys tumbled into the kitchen together, Ellis chattering about some video game while Noah nodded along. He seemed different in the daylight, still guarded, but with a cautious cheerfulness that broke my heart. This was a child desperately trying to appear normal. Morning, boys, I said, flipping another pancake. Sleep well? Great. Ellis grabbed the syrup before even sitting down. Noah nodded. Yes, thank you. The couch was really comfortable. I placed a stack of pancakes in front of each of them. Eat up. I thought maybe Noah could stay another day or two. Noah froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Really? If you'd like to, I said carefully. Ellis has been wanting a friend over for a movie marathon. Ellis caught on immediately. Yeah, we could watch all the Marvel movies in order. Hope and suspicion warred on Noah's face. I don't want to be a bother. Not at all, I assured him. But we should let your mom know. A crash made us all jump. Noah had dropped his plate. It shattered on the floor, sending pancake pieces and syrup everywhere. I'm sorry, he gasped, already on his knees gathering shards. "I'm so sorry, I'll clean it up." The panic in his voice was unbearable. I knelt beside him, gently taking the broken pieces from his trembling hands. "It's just a plate, Noah. Accidents happen." His breathing was shallow, eyes darting to the door like he expected punishment to walk through it. I helped him up, noticing how he flinched when my hand touched his arm. After breakfast, I sent the boys to play video games while I made some calls. First, their school. Pinewood Elementary. This is Susan.
Susan.
This is Claire Whitmore, Ellis's mom. I need to speak with Miss Pendleton about one of her students. Minutes later, Ellis's 5th grade teacher came on the line. "Mrs. Whitmore? Is everything all right?" "I'm calling about Noah Greaves," I said, keeping my voice low. "He stayed at our house last night, and I noticed some concerning signs." A heavy pause. "What kind of signs?" "Bruises. A lot of them. On his back and ribs." I swallowed. "They look deliberate, Miss Pendleton." Another silence. "I've had concerns," she finally admitted. "Noah's very private. Wears long sleeves even in warm weather. But without something concrete, our hands are tied." "This is concrete," I insisted. "I saw the marks myself." "Did Noah tell you who hurt him?" "No, but—" "Mrs. Whitmore," she interrupted, her voice gentle but firm, "we've looked into the Greaves situation before. Noah's mother is well-connected in town. Without Noah's testimony or clear evidence linking the injuries to a specific person, it's difficult to proceed." My frustration mounted. "So, everyone just looks the other way?" "I didn't say that." Her voice dropped lower. "You might want to speak with Mr. Rayford, our school counselor. Noah meets with him weekly." I hung up feeling uneasy. Next, I drove to the school, claiming I needed to drop off Ellis's forgotten lunch. The real purpose: to find Mr. Rayford. The counselor's office was tucked away in a quiet corner. Theodore Rayford was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with wire-rimmed glasses and a cautious smile. "Mrs. Whitmore," he greeted me. "What can I do for you?" I closed his door before speaking. "I'm here about Noah Greaves." His smile faltered slightly. "I can't discuss students without parental consent. Even when that student shows signs of abuse?" I kept my voice steady. Rayford adjusted his glasses. "Any concerns about abuse would be handled according to protocol." "Which is what, exactly?" "Because I'm seeing a lot of protocol, but not much protection." He leaned forward. "Mrs. Whitmore, these situations are delicate. We follow the law. If we suspect abuse, we report it." "And have you reported Noah's situation?" His eyes flickered to his computer. "I can't discuss that." "He's covered in bruises," I pressed. "Belt marks. And he's terrified." Rayford's expression was unreadable. "If you've witnessed signs of abuse, you should report it to authorities." Something about his tone felt off. Too rehearsed, too careful. I pulled out my phone. "You don't mind if I record this conversation, do you? For clarity's sake." His posture stiffened. "That won't be necessary. I've given you the appropriate guidance." As I left, the receptionist called after me. "Mrs. Whitmore?" "A word." She glanced around before whispering, "Be careful with Rayford. He's close with the church board, the same one Noah's uncle sits on." I drove home with a growing sense of dread. When I arrived, Ellis was showing Noah his comic collection. "Hey guys," I said, trying to sound normal. "Noah, does your dad live with you and your mom?" Noah's shoulders tensed. "No, ma'am." Ellis jumped in. "His dad isn't around anymore. Not since last winter." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said carefully. "Did he pass away?" Noah shook his head. "He just left." Later, while the boys played outside, I searched online for death records, divorce filings, anything about Noah's father. Nothing came up under the name Greaves in our county for the past year. That evening, I offered to wash Noah's clothes. He hesitated before handing over his backpack. "There's not much clean stuff left." "No problem. We can throw it all in." As I emptied the backpack in the laundry room, a notebook tumbled out. It fell open to pages filled with drawings, dark, disturbing images. A house with flames shooting from the windows. A shadowy figure looming over a small boy. A child locked in what looked like a closet, hands pounding on the door. My stomach lurched. These weren't random doodles. They were Noah's nightmares, captured in crayon and pencil. That night, a scream jolted me awake. I rushed to the guest room to find Noah thrashing in his sleep. "No, please," he cried. "Don't lock me in again. I'll be good." "Noah," I called softly, keeping my distance. "Noah, wake up. You're safe." His eyes flew open, wild with terror before focusing on me. Realization dawned, followed by shame. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Did I wake everyone up?" "Just me," I assured him, sitting gingerly on the edge of the bed. "Do you want to talk about it?" He shook his head, pulling the blanket tighter. "That's okay. But Noah, if someone is hurting you, I can help." His face went blank. "Nobody's hurting me. Those bruises on your back." I fell out of a tree. The lie came easily practiced. I sighed. "Noah, I need to talk to your mom tomorrow. About you staying longer." Fear flashed across his face. "Please don't. She'll be mad that I bothered people." "You're not a bother," I said firmly. "But I have to talk to her. Parent to parent." The next morning, I drove to the address listed in the school directory. The Greaves house was on the outskirts of town, a small ranch-style home with peeling paint and overgrown grass. Not what I expected from a family supposedly well-connected. I knocked 3 times before the door swung open. Lana Greaves was thin and hollow-eyed, with the same blonde hair as her son. She wore a waitress uniform, and a fading bruise shadowed her left cheekbone. "Can I help you?" Her voice had a slight rasp, like she smoked too much. "Mrs. Greaves?"
I'm Claire Whitmore.
Noah stayed at our house last night. Her expression shifted from confusion to wariness. "Noah's at school." "No, he's at my house with my son, Ellis. He came over yesterday and asked to stay the night." Her fingers tightened on the doorframe. "He didn't tell me. He said you work nights." "Not last night." Her eyes narrowed. "Why are you really here?" I took a deep breath. I saw bruises on Noah's back. A lot of them. Lana's face hardened. "Boys play rough. He falls a lot." "These weren't from falling," I said quietly. "They looked like they were made with a belt." She stepped onto the porch, pulling the door nearly closed behind her. "Listen carefully. Noah is my son. My responsibility. Not yours." "I'm just concerned." "He's mine," she hissed. "Don't go digging unless you're ready for what you'll find." The threat in her voice was unmistakable. "Is someone hurting him?" I pressed. "Is someone hurting you too?" Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe. "Go home, Mrs. Whitmore. Send Noah back after school." She retreated inside, slamming the door. I sat in my car, hands shaking. The confrontation had only deepened my concerns. Who was she protecting? Herself? Noah? Someone else? That night, after the boys went to bed, I set up a small camera in the living room, a nanny cam disguised as a clock. I hated invading Noah's privacy, but I needed evidence if I was going to help him. At midnight, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello." Silence. Then a man's voice, low and deliberate. "You're not the first to ask questions about the Greaves. Be careful." The line went dead. The next morning, I reviewed the nanny cam footage with a knot in my stomach. What I saw broke my heart. At 2:17 a.m., Noah had crept into the kitchen, quietly opening cupboards until he found our snack shelf. He carefully took 2 granola bars and an apple, wrapping them in a napkin before tucking them deep in his backpack. He checked all the door locks twice, testing each one. Then he sat on the couch, whispering what sounded like prayers, before returning to the guest room. This wasn't just a kid sneaking midnight snacks. This was survival behavior, hoarding food, ensuring escape routes, seeking divine protection. Classic signs of severe trauma. While the boys were at school, I drove to the police station. Officer Jameson was an old friend from high school who'd helped when neighborhood kids vandalized my garage last year. "Police reports involving the Greaves family," I explained after pleasantries. "Anything in the system?" Jameson frowned. Claire, you know I can't just pull records for you. Please, Mike. I think a child is in danger. His expression softened. Give me a minute. He returned with a troubled look. 3 domestic disturbance calls in the past year. All dismissed. Notes mention a misunderstanding each time. Who made the calls? Different neighbors. Funny thing, 2 families moved away shortly after. He leaned closer. There's something else. Dylan Greaves, Noah's uncle, I think. He was questioned in a missing persons case 5 years ago. Teen boy from the church youth group. Nothing came of it. My blood ran cold. What happened to the boy? Never found. Jameson looked uncomfortable. Look, be careful. Dylan has connections with Judge Marshall and the DA's office. Back home, I found Mrs. Peterson from across the street watering her flowers. She'd lived in Pinewood forever and knew everyone's business. That poor Greaves boy, she murmured when I mentioned Noah. Not the first, you know. What do you mean? She glanced around before lowering her voice. There was another boy. Foster child the church placed with the Greaves family. 5 years ago. Sweet boy named Jamie. Then one day, poof, gone. They said he ran away, but... She shook her head. No one ever saw him again. That afternoon, I picked the boys up from school. Noah seemed more relaxed than before, almost like he was allowing himself to feel safe. After dinner, Ellis went to shower, leaving Noah and me alone in the kitchen. Noah, I said gently, I'd like you to stay with us a while longer. Would that be okay? He looked up, surprised. My mom said I could. I'm working on that part, I admitted. But I want you to know you're welcome here. Always. He was quiet for a long moment. There's a closet, he finally whispered. At home. Under the stairs. My heart stuttered. What about it? That's where I go when I'm bad. His voice was so small. The closet room. Sometimes for a whole day. I fought to keep my expression neutral. Who puts you there? He started folding his napkin into smaller and smaller squares. Mom says it's to keep me safe. When Uncle Dylan visits. Does Uncle Dylan hurt you? I asked carefully. Noah's hands trembled. He says it's discipline. That I have the devil in me. A tear slid down his cheek. He does it to Mom too. When she tries to stop him. The piece clicked into place. Lana wasn't the abuser. She was another victim, trapped in the same nightmare as her son. Noah, I promise you won't go back to that closet. Not ever. That night, Ellis came to my room in tears. I keep seeing it in my head, he sobbed. Noah locked in a closet. Somebody hitting him. I held him close. I know, baby. It's scary. Why would someone do that? I had no good answer. Some people are broken inside, Ellis. They hurt others because they're hurting. But we're going to help Noah now. The next morning, Ellis found a folded note in his backpack after we arrived at school. He handed it to me with wide eyes. Keep your nose out of what doesn't belong to you, it read in block letters. Or your boy will learn what real pain is. My hand shook with rage and fear. Someone was threatening my son now. After dropping the boys at school, I noticed a black SUV parked across the street. Tinted windows, expensive wheels. It followed me for several blocks before turning off. That afternoon, the same SUV was parked near my house. This time I wrote down the license plate and followed it when it pulled away. It led me to an imposing brick building on the edge of town, Pinewood Community Church. Inside, a secretary directed me to a board member's office. The nameplate read Dylan Greaves. He was younger than I expected, early 40s, handsome in a severe way, with the same blue eyes as Noah. His smile never reached those eyes. Mrs. Whitmore, he greeted me, closing his office door. I wondered when you'd come looking for me. You've been following me, I stated flatly. Keeping an eye on my nephew's welfare. His voice was smooth, controlled. I understand he's staying with you. He's safe with me, I countered. Dylan chuckled. Noah requires firm guidance. He has behavioral issues. His mother lacks the proper discipline. Is that what you call the bruises on his back? Discipline? His expression hardened. Children need structure. The Bible speaks of sparing the rod and spoiling the child. The Bible doesn't advocate child abuse. Abuse is a strong word. He leaned forward. Tell me, Mrs. Whitmore, are you familiar with our church's youth rehabilitation program? We help troubled boys find the right path. A chill ran through me. Like Jamie? The foster boy who disappeared 5 years ago. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You're putting your son in danger, Mrs. Whitmore. Ellis, isn't it? Such a trusting child. My hands curled into fists. Stay away from my family. Family, he repeated, almost amused. Noah isn't your family. He belongs with his mother under proper guidance. This matter is bigger than you understand. I stood to leave. I understand enough. And I'm not backing down. As I walked out, Dylan called after me. Ask yourself why Lana never leaves. Why she always comes back to me. Some chains aren't visible, Mrs. Whitmore. I drove home shaking with anger and fear. Noah was on the couch when I arrived, pretending to read while clearly waiting for me. You saw Uncle Dylan, he said flatly. How did you know? You have the same look Mom gets. He closed his book. He told you I'm bad, right? That I need special help.
No.
He runs a special camp. For boys like me. Noah's voice turned hollow. Boys who need to be fixed. Nothing about you needs fixing, I insisted. Jamie went to the camp. Noah's eyes filled with tears. He never came back. I sat beside him, careful not to touch him. Did you know Jamie well? Noah nodded. He lived with us for a while. He was nice to me. Then Uncle Dylan said he was possessed. They took him to the camp to pray over him. His voice dropped to a whisper. I heard them arguing that night. Jamie was screaming. A cold horror washed over me. Noah, I promise you're not going back there. Not to your house. Not to any camp. You can't stop him, Noah said with the resigned certainty of a child who'd never been protected. Nobody can. That night, I was awakened by Ellis shaking my shoulder.
Mom.
Noah's gone. We searched the house frantically. The guest room was empty, Noah's backpack missing. The back door stood slightly ajar. On his pillow was a note in childish handwriting. Thank you for being nice to me. I have to go or he'll hurt Ellis too. Noah had run away to protect us. And I had no idea where to find him. I stared at Noah's note until the words blurred. My hands shook as I dialed 911. My son's friend is missing, I told the dispatcher, my voice cracking. He's 10 years old. He left a note saying he ran away. The questions came rapid fire. How long had he been gone? What was he wearing? Any idea where he might have gone? I answered as best I could, fighting rising panic. Ma'am, why was this child staying with you instead of his legal guardian? The dispatcher's tone shifted subtly. He was being abused at home, I said firmly. I have photographs of bruises on his back and ribs. A pause. And you reported this to Child Protective Services? I closed my eyes. I was gathering evidence. I was trying to protect him. We'll send an officer to take a report, she said finally. In the meantime, contact the child's parents. Ellis stood in the doorway, still in his pajamas, tears streaming down his face. I pulled him close. This is my fault, he whispered against my shoulder. I pushed him too hard. I kept asking about the bruises. No, baby, I said, stroking his hair. Noah ran because he cares about you. He thinks he's protecting us. From his uncle? I nodded. But we're going to find him first. Officer Bennett arrived 30 minutes later. He was young and took copious notes, but I could see the skepticism in his eyes when I mentioned Dylan Greaves. Mr. Greaves is highly respected in this community, ma'am, he said carefully. These are serious allegations. I have pictures, I insisted, showing him the photos I'd taken of Noah's back while he slept. And his own testimony about being locked in a closet. Bennett's expression softened slightly. I'll file the report. We'll start looking right away. After he left, I called everyone I could think of, Noah's school, local stores, the public library. No one had seen him. By mid-morning, a small search party had formed in my living room, parents from Ellis's class, a few neighbors, my friend Rachel from work. We'll split into groups, I explained, unfolding a map of Pinewood. Noah's on foot, so he can't have gone far. As everyone dispersed, my phone rang. Lana Greaves. You lost my son. Her voice was flat. Lana, I'm doing everything I can to find him, I said, trying to stay calm. He's scared of your brother. Of what Dylan might do to him. Or to Ellis. A long silence. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Then help me understand, I pleaded. Help me find Noah before Dylan does. It's too late. The defeat in her voice chilled me. Dylan knows he's gone. He has people looking. Lana, please. I know you want to protect Noah. Another silence. The old church camp, she finally whispered. North of town. If he's running from Dylan, he might go there. Why there? It's where they took Jamie. Noah thinks. He thinks if he can find evidence there, someone will finally believe him. Her voice broke. But Dylan will check there too. I'm calling the police, I said, already reaching for my keys. They won't help, Lana insisted. Not against Dylan. He owns half the department. I wasn't sure if that was true, but I couldn't risk it. Stay by your phone. I'll call when I find him. Ellis insisted on coming with me, and I didn't have time to argue. We drove to the edge of town, following dirt roads into the pine forest. The camp was actually a cluster of dilapidated cabins surrounding a larger lodge, all abandoned years ago, according to the sign. Mom, Ellis whispered as we got out of the car. Someone's been here. Fresh tire tracks cut through the mud near the main building. My stomach nodded. Noah, I called, keeping Ellis close to my side. Noah, it's Claire and Ellis. We're here to help. Silence, then a rustling from behind one of the smaller cabins. We hurried toward it, finding a narrow window at ground level, a basement or crawl space. Noah. Ellis dropped to his knees, peering into the darkness. Is that you? A pale face appeared in the gloom. Ellis? How did you find me? Relief washed over me. Noah, thank God. Come out, honey. We need to get you somewhere safe. I can't, he whispered, eyes wide with fear. Uncle Dylan was just here. He has people watching the road. Did he see you? Noah shook his head. I hid when I heard his car. But he knows I'm here. I heard him talking on the phone. I glanced over my shoulder nervously. What is this place, Noah? Where bad boys go, he said, his voice hollow. Uncle Dylan brings them here, to be fixed. That's what happened to Jamie. Do you know where Jamie is? I asked gently. Noah's eyes filled with tears. By the big oak tree, behind the lodge, there's a cross made of sticks. My blood turned to ice. Noah, listen carefully. We're going to get you out, then straight to the police. If what you're saying is true. It is true. His voice rose. Nobody believes me, but it's true. Jamie tried to run away, and they brought him here, and the crunch of tires on gravel cut him off. Headlights swept across the trees as a vehicle approached. Get in, I hissed, helping Noah squeeze through the window. We need to go. Now. We hurried back toward my car, staying low behind the cabins. But as we reached the clearing, two vehicles blocked our path. Dylan's black SUV and a blue sedan I recognized as Lana's. Wonderful. Dylan's voice rang out as he stepped from his vehicle. The whole family together. Lana emerged from her car, looking terrified. Dylan, please. Let's just go home. After all the trouble Noah has caused? Dylan's tone was eerily pleasant. After the lies he's told Mrs. Whitmore? I pushed both boys behind me. The only liar here is you, Dylan. I've seen Noah's bruises. I know about Jamie. Dylan's smile didn't falter. Jamie was a troubled boy who ran away, just like Noah was about to do. Jamie is buried behind the lodge, I said, watching his expression. Isn't he? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You have quite an imagination, Mrs. Whitmore. Mom, Ellis whispered, tugging my sleeve. I sent a text. What? I glanced down at him. To Mrs. Peterson. When we found Noah, I told her where we were. I could have kissed him. Smart, brave boy. Dylan took a step closer, and I saw he was holding something at his side, a belt, doubled over in his fist. "Noah," he called, his voice suddenly gentle. "Come here, son. It's time to go home." Noah trembled against me. "No," he whispered. "Noah," Dylan's voice hardened.
Now.
"He's not going anywhere with you," I said, standing my ground. Dylan's smile disappeared. "This doesn't concern you." It became my concern the moment Noah showed up at my door. I countered. "The moment I saw what you did to him." "Discipline is not abuse," he said coldly. "Something you clearly don't understand, judging by your son's behavior." Lana stepped forward, her hands shaking. "Dylan, that's enough. Please." He rounded on her. "You stay out of this. Your weakness is why the boy is so defiant." While they argued, I inched the boys toward the trees. If we could make it to the forest, we might have a chance to circle back to the car. Dylan noticed. "Don't move," he snapped, raising the belt threateningly. "This ends now." A beam of light suddenly cut through the darkness, followed by the wail of a siren. A police cruiser rolled into the clearing, then another. Officer Bennett stepped out, hand on his holster. "Everything all right here, folks?" Dylan's demeanor transformed instantly. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. I'm trying to collect my nephew, but Mrs. Whitmore is interfering." Bennett looked from Dylan to me, then to the boys. "Noah Greaves." Noah stepped forward slightly. "Yes, sir." "Son, I need to ask you something important," Bennett said, kneeling to Noah's level. "Are you afraid to go home with your uncle?" Noah glanced at Dylan, then back at the officer. For a moment, I thought fear would silence him again. Then he lifted his shirt, turning to show his back. "He does this to me," Noah said, his voice shaking but clear. "And he hurt Jamie too. Jamie's buried behind the lodge." Bennett's face hardened as he stood. "Mr. Greaves, I'm going to need you to step away from the children." "This is absurd," Dylan sputtered. "The boy is lying." "Sir, hands where I can see them," Bennett ordered, his hand moving to his gun. For a terrible moment, I thought Dylan might lunge for Noah. Instead, he dropped the belt and raised his hands slowly. "This is a misunderstanding," he said smoothly. "I have friends in the department. Judge Marshall will clear this up." "Maybe," Bennett replied, cuffing him. "But right now, you're being detained while we investigate some very serious allegations." As they led Dylan to a cruiser, Lana collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Noah approached her cautiously. "Mom." She looked up, her face streaked with tears. "I'm so sorry, Noah. I didn't know how to stop him. He said I'd lose you like I lost the first one." "The first one?" I echoed, confused. Lana's eyes met mine. "My oldest. My daughter. She went to live with Dylan after the divorce. When she started saying things about him, nobody believed her. Her voice broke. Then she was gone. Foster care. He made sure I'd never find her." I knelt beside her. "Is that why you stayed? Why you let him near Noah?" She nodded, unable to speak. "Mrs. Whitmore?" A female officer approached. "We need to take statements from everyone, and we'll need to check behind the lodge." I glanced at the boys. "Can it wait until morning? The children have been through enough tonight." She hesitated, then nodded. "First thing tomorrow. For now, Noah will need to go with child services." "No," Noah cried, clinging to Ellis. "Please. Can he stay with us?" I asked. "Just until things are sorted out?" The officer considered. "As an emergency placement, maybe. I'll need to make some calls." As the police secured the scene, I gathered both boys in my arms. Noah was still shaking, but something had changed in his eyes, a tiny spark of hope where before there had been only resignation. "It's over," I whispered to him. "He can't hurt you anymore." "Promise?" he asked, his voice small. "Promise," I replied, though I knew the road ahead would be long and difficult. For tonight, at least, he was safe. And for a child who had known nothing but fear, that was everything. The next few weeks passed in a blur of police interviews, court hearings, and meetings with social workers. Noah stayed with us under emergency foster care authorization, a miracle of paperwork and sympathetic officials. The investigation at the old church camp confirmed our worst fears. Behind the lodge, beneath a crude cross of sticks, they found human remains. Dental records later identified them as James Weller, age 14, reported missing 5 years earlier. Dylan Greaves was held without bail, charged with multiple counts of child abuse, false imprisonment, and eventually murder. His arrest sent shockwaves through our small town. The scandal touched everyone, from church officials who had looked the other way to school administrators who had ignored warning signs. Noah was assigned a caseworker named Darlene Wilson, a no-nonsense woman with kind eyes who came twice weekly to check on him. "He's doing remarkably well, considering," she told me during one visit, watching Noah and Ellis build a Lego fortress in the living room. "Children are resilient, but they need stability. He feels safe here." "What happens next?" I asked, the question that had been keeping me awake at night. "Will he go back to Lana?" Darlene sighed. "She's entered a treatment program for domestic violence survivors. It's a good start, but recovery takes time. For now, if you're willing, we'd like Noah to remain with you." "Of course," I said without hesitation. "As long as he needs." Noah's therapy sessions began the following week. Dr. Laura Simmons specialized in childhood trauma and had an office filled with art supplies and fidget toys. Noah emerged from his first session quiet but not shut down progress, according to Dr. Simmons. "He's carrying a lot of guilt," she explained privately. "For not protecting his mother. For Jamie. For putting Ellis in danger.
We're working on that."
Ellis, my sweet, empathetic boy, seemed to understand instinctively what Noah needed. He included Noah in everything, defended him fiercely at school, and never pushed when Noah had quiet days. But not everyone was supportive. The whispers started at school pickup, spread to the grocery store, the PTA meeting. "She's trying to steal someone else's child." Always thought she was lonely after the divorce. Did she really need to involve the police? Couldn't it have been handled privately? Rachel warned me over coffee one morning. "People are talking, Claire. The Greaves had connections. Dylan's arrest embarrassed a lot of important people." "Let them talk," I said, though the words stung. Noah's safety matters more than gossip. The whispers became open criticism when Lana's initial supervised visitations went well. Twice a week, she and Noah met at the Family Services Center, slowly rebuilding their relationship. "She's his mother." Trish Baker cornered me after a school function. "Don't you think the boy belongs with her?" I took a deep breath. "I think Noah belongs wherever he feels safe. Right now, that's with us. But I hope someday he can be with Lana again." What I didn't mention was Lana's private confession during one of our meetings. "I don't know if I'll ever be strong enough to protect him properly. I failed before." 1 month into Noah's stay, Darlene arrived for her regular visit with a troubled expression. "We need to talk," she said once the boys were outside. "There's been a formal complaint about your fitness as a foster parent." My heart sank. "From who?" "Anonymous, officially. But it came through Dylan's attorney." She looked apologetic. "We have to investigate any complaint. There will be additional home visits, interviews with the boys, background checks." "He's in jail, and he's still trying to control Noah," I said, anger rising in my throat. "It's a tactic," Darlene agreed. "But don't give them anything to use against you. This placement is temporary until the court makes a permanent decision." The review process was intrusive and exhausting. Every aspect of my life came under scrutiny: my work schedule, finances, parenting philosophy, even my divorce. Through it all, I maintained a calm facade for the boys' sake, but inside I was terrified of losing Noah. Meanwhile, Ellis threw himself into advocating for his friend. When his teacher assigned speeches about courage, Ellis stood before his class and spoke from the heart. "Courage isn't just doing dangerous stuff," he began. "Sometimes it's telling the truth when everyone wants you to be quiet. Sometimes it's being the family someone needs when their own family hurts them." Miss Pendleton called me that evening, her voice thick with emotion. "Claire, I owe you an apology. I should have done more for Noah." "We all should have," I replied, thinking of all the adults who had failed him. The preliminary hearing for Dylan's case brought another breakthrough. The investigation had reopened old questions about other boys who had gone through Dylan's rehabilitation program. 2 came forward with similar stories of abuse, though none as severe as Noah's. And then came the biggest revelation. Lana agreed to testify against her brother in exchange for immunity and entry into a comprehensive rehabilitation program. Her testimony detailed years of manipulation and abuse, beginning in their childhood home and continuing into her marriage and motherhood. He controlled everything, she told prosecutors. Who I saw, where I lived, how I raised Noah. When I tried to leave, he threatened to take Noah away. Said he'd tell everyone I was an unfit mother, that I'd never see my son again. As news of Lana's cooperation spread, the tide of public opinion began to shift. People who had whispered behind my back now stopped to ask how Noah was doing. Some even admitted they'd suspected problems at the Greaves house, but hadn't known what to do. 4 months after Noah first knocked on our door, I sat in a family court hearing, heart pounding as Judge Williams reviewed the case. Ms. Greaves is making commendable progress, the judge noted, but stability remains a concern. The child has formed a significant bond with the foster family. She looked at me over her glasses. Mrs. Whitmore, are you prepared to continue as Noah's foster parent for the foreseeable future? Yes, Your Honor, I said without hesitation. For as long as needed. And Ms. Greaves, you understand this arrangement? Lana nodded, eyes downcast. I want what's best for Noah. Right now, that's not me. The judge made her ruling. Noah would remain in my custody, with Lana granted supervised visitation rights that could expand as she progressed in her recovery. A review was scheduled for 6 months later. Outside the courtroom, Lana approached me. Thank you, she said quietly, for doing what I couldn't. You're getting stronger every day, I told her. Noah sees that. She smiled sadly. He calls your house home now. That hurts, but it's right. That evening, I tucked Noah into bed, something he'd recently started allowing. The judge said I can stay, he said, his voice small in the darkness. As long as you want, I confirmed. He was quiet for a moment. What if I want to stay forever? My heart swelled. Then we'll work on that too. His hand found mine in the darkness. I'm not scared anymore, he whispered. Not like before. As I closed his door, I found Ellis waiting in the hallway. Is Noah really going to be my brother? He asked. Would you like that? His grin was answer enough. The next day, I filed the first paperwork for permanent guardianship, the first step toward possibly adopting Noah, if that became what was best for him. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in months, it was filled with hope instead of fear. That weekend, we began building a treehouse in the backyard, a project Noah had shyly suggested. As we worked, Noah laughed freely, no longer flinching at sudden movements or loud noises. Watching him, I realized we weren't just building a treehouse. We were rebuilding a life that had been shattered by cruelty, piece by piece, with patience and love. A home rebuilt, stronger at its broken places. 1 year later, I stood in our kitchen, marveling at how much had changed. The calendar on the wall was crowded with activities. Ellis's baseball games, Noah's therapy appointments, now down to twice monthly, weekend plans, and school events. Normal, beautiful chaos.
Mom.
Noah took the last of the cinnamon toast crunch again. Ellis's indignant cry rang from the dining room. Did not. I left like 3 pieces. Noah countered, laughing. 3 pieces isn't a serving. It's just crumbs. I smiled as I rounded the corner. There's another box in the pantry, drama queens. The boys sat at the table, uniforms rumpled, hair still messy from sleep. Ellis, now 11, had shot up 3 inches in the past year. Noah, still smaller but no longer painfully thin, had developed a smattering of freckles across his nose from hours spent outdoors. We're going to be late, I reminded them, grabbing car keys. Parent-teacher conferences this afternoon, so Aunt Rachel is picking you up from school. Can we get pizza tonight? Noah asked, slinging his backpack over his shoulder.
Sure.
But vegetables on at least half. I countered. Gross. Both boys groaned in unison. These ordinary moments still took my breath away sometimes. The easy banter, the casual requests, the absence of fear in Noah's eyes. It hadn't been an easy year, but healing had come in small, steady increments. Dylan's trial had concluded 3 months ago with multiple convictions, including second-degree murder for Jamie's death. The sentence: life without parole. Noah hadn't attended the trial, but he'd written a statement that the prosecutor read to the court. Simple, devastating words about closets and belts and fear that left many jurors in tears. Lana had maintained her sobriety for 10 months now. She worked at a local diner and attended therapy twice weekly. Her supervised visits with Noah had gradually expanded to include occasional weekends. Their relationship remained complicated, fragile in places, but genuine love shone through the cracks. After dropping the boys at school, I drove to my office at the community center. What had begun as volunteer work helping families navigate social services had evolved into a full-time position directing a new advocacy program, supporting families in crisis. The idea had come after local news coverage of Noah's case prompted dozens of calls from parents who suspected abuse but didn't know what to do. Vivian Marsh, the reporter who'd initially been skeptical of my concerns, became our biggest media supporter. "Claire, you've got a call from the state coalition," my assistant called as I settled at my desk. The coalition wanted me to speak at their annual conference, share our town's journey from complicit silence to active protection of vulnerable children. Since Dylan's arrest, 2 other cases of abuse had been uncovered and addressed. The wall of silence was crumbling. That evening, after pizza and homework, Noah disappeared into his room, returning with a sealed envelope. "It's for my mom," he explained, fidgeting nervously. "She wrote me again." Lana had begun writing letters to Noah 6 months ago, a suggestion from their family therapist. Sometimes Noah read them immediately. Other times they sat unopened for days. "Do you want to read it together?" I asked. He shook his head. I want to write back this time." My heart squeezed. "That's a big step." "She's really trying," he said simply. "And Dr. Laura says it's okay to have complicated feelings." Later, I peeked into his room to find him hunched over a notebook, carefully forming words. Healing came in many forms. The following weekend, Ellis had the idea to build an addition to their treehouse, a small deck with a railing where they could sit and read comics. "We should call it something," Ellis decided as we gathered supplies. "Like a special name." Noah considered this while measuring a board. "How about the safe house?" I tried not to show how much the name affected me. "That's perfect." Working together in the dappled shade, the boys fell into an easy rhythm, Ellis holding boards while Noah hammered, both of them arguing good-naturedly about the design. They developed the synchronized shorthand of brothers, anticipating each other's needs and movements. On Monday, an email arrived from Vivian Marsh. Her long-form article about Noah's case and its aftermath had been picked up by a national publication. The response had been overwhelming, prompting state legislators to review laws regarding mandatory reporting and church oversight. "They're calling for a special committee," Vivian wrote, "to examine how institutions can be held accountable when they shield abusers. Your advocacy made this happen, Claire." I forwarded the email to Darlene Wilson, who had become both a colleague and friend. "Progress," she replied simply. 2 weeks later, we celebrated Ellis's birthday with a backyard cookout. Friends from school, neighbors, family. Our house overflowed with laughter and conversation. As the party wound down, Ellis clinked his soda can with a fork, clearing his throat dramatically. "I want to make a toast," he announced, "to turning 11, which is basically almost a teenager." Chuckles rippled through the gathering. "But mostly," Ellis continued, his expression turning serious, "to Noah. Because if Noah hadn't knocked on our door that night, I wouldn't have known how brave I could be, or how much better life is with a brother." Noah ducked his head, but not before I caught his smile. Unguarded, genuine happiness. He bumped Ellis's shoulder affectionately. That night, after the guests had left and the boys were in bed, I sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies rise from the lawn. Noah joined me, wrapped in a blanket despite the mild evening. "Can't sleep?" I asked, making room beside me. He shook his head. "Thinking too much." We swung in comfortable silence for a while before he spoke again. I decided what I want to be when I grow up. Oh, what's that? A social worker, he said softly. Like Darlene. To be someone who listens when a kid says please. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. You'd be wonderful at that. Do you think? He hesitated. Do you think some things happen for a reason? Even bad things? I don't know, I answered honestly. But I think we can find meaning in how we respond to them, in how we help each other heal. Noah nodded, leaning against my shoulder. I'm glad I came here. That night. Me too, sweetheart. We sat together watching the stars appear one by one, comfortable in our shared silence. The journey hadn't ended. There would be hard days ahead, setbacks, new challenges as Noah grew. But the foundation was solid now, built on trust and patience and unwavering support. He had asked to stay for one night, but what he really needed was a place to finally rest, to be a child without fear, to heal at his own pace, to dream of a future bright with possibility. And in finding a home for Noah, I had discovered a deeper purpose for myself. The broken places in all of us had begun to mend, stronger for having been shattered. One knock on the door had changed everything. One child's courage had transformed us all. Noah's breathing deepened beside me, his body relaxing into sleep. I covered him with more of the blanket, not wanting to wake him just yet. Some moments of peace deserve to linger. What would you do if a child's bruises forced you to choose between safety and silence? If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share to help more voices be heard, because sometimes the most important stories are the hardest ones to tell.